So during these great times of change, many are awakening and experiencing contact in many different forms, and this is why we took this trip to Mount Shasta. I was called to do this trip earlier last year in 2018, towards the end of the year, to create this trip, and it came at a very profound time at the end of the galactic cycle that just ended in July, and we've started a new galactic cycle. And so it was a very powerful time to be making contact and doing healing work on the mountain. And the work that I do with the light language, which is usually presented on my YouTube channel here, is, contacting the Council of Light, connecting with the Elohim, the Seraphim, Ascended Masters, many other frequencies. And what I am, coming to realize, or experiencing, I should say, is that all of these beings are frequencies. So whether you are calling them angels, ascended masters, or extraterrestrials, they're all basically interdimensional or frequency beings, and they're frequencies that we are learning to attune ourselves to, or who are contacting us and helping us change our frequencies to basically a higher channel, so that we can connect with, you could say, these parts of our own consciousness. For those that like to view it that way, you can see it as you're connecting with a higher version of your own consciousness. If you're looking at, we are all one, right? So we are connecting to the all, and when you connect to the all, you're basically just accessing different frequencies. To others, this can be feeling like you are actually speaking to other beings and they have identities. And so it's all quite a large experiment right now with everything coming in. And so there just definitely seems to be a lot of different types of contact, right? And many of us have had 3D contact, meaning physical, where we see things with the physical eye. We're not just seeing things astrally. And again, all of this is for healing and ascension or enlightenment, raising our frequency, raising our consciousness more to this love state, right? And when we do that, we do experience more contact from other beings, whether it be angels, elementals, fairies, ETs, UFOs, interdimensional beings. They all have their own frequency input, or not input, but frequency that they emanate, right? And we had such an example of this when we went to Shasta this trip, from very playful elementals to various serious native spirits that visited and connected and did some very powerful healing with us, to connecting to some very wise beings that are great knowledge keepers, helping us access very deep galactic knowledge, connecting to the Telos beings, the ancient Lemurians that live inside of the Mount Shasta, the city that's underneath the mountain, connecting to ascended masters like Adama. There's also a connection to what I had experienced before as something called the Eden Light. I had experienced this being at a garden here in Novato, California, I think it was called the Eden Garden. I think that garden has been closed now, but I did meet the owner. He was of the Melchizedek frequency, as am I. And so that is basically, you are a fifth dimensional resonance keeper, and you are helping others adjust their frequency. So again, everything is coming down to frequency and who you're contacting. So this happens to us as human beings too, right? We attract those that are a similar frequency. And so when we do this contact work, we are bringing in beings that are connecting to our higher frequencies and the frequencies that are in our highest alignment to move into as we're going on our soul path, as well as our ascension path, our consciousness. So a lot of the beings that we contacted, you could say they are in the frequencies of the Elohim, which are the frequencies of form, right? They are helping change our DNA, right? And so the Elohim do this, the Arcturians do this, and it seems like some of the elementals, I was told there was a being called the Essene that were contacting us as well, which I will show. We have a visual of them. They were very prevalent. The Arcturians, the Pleidians, the Sirians, they were also present. There's a group called the Aqualorians that I've also come into contact with. They're teaching me new crystalline light healing. And yes, there was just such a beautiful array of beings or frequencies coming in to connect with us to help us shift into our higher selves. And so it's really just a beautiful time to be alive right now, or to be incarnated in this dimensional earth plane, really experiencing all of these amazing shifts. So the videos and the photos that we have here are part of our contact sessions. We were doing these every night on the mountain. I would go up, I would open a sacred space and do a light language transmission that came through, and then a message that came through with the light language transmission. And this would set the tone for the type of contact we were having that evening, as well as, any healing that we were going to be given. And so these are going to be the pictures and the video of the beings that did come to visit us. So you may receive a healing frequency just through seeing these videos. If you are interested in the channeled recordings, I will put a link for that below, where you can have access to these recordings. And I hope you enjoy watching these images and connecting to their energies. So I just wanted to do a little summary of the types of contact that are out there and what we experience. So just looking at, I think it's Hynek's scale. He was the first, I think in the 70s, to come up with a scale of the types of contact, right? So we've all heard of Steven Spielberg's movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind, right? And that is a type of contact. Okay, so the first level is seeing a UFO less than 500 feet away. And so first kind is seeing the UFO at a very close range, which the ones that we saw, they were pretty close. They were in the field that we were laying in, so they were quite close. The second type of close encounter is the interference of electronic device, which we have one video here where the phone starts going off during contact. When she looked at the phone, there were no missed calls. So this was definitely part of the contact that was going on. The other thing that occurred is many of us got really hot. So this is also a part of contact. We also were told that we were receiving healing at that time as well. So there is a combination of occurrences going on. The heat, I'd say, that is occurring it's not just part of the contact. You're receiving healing from the beings that are coming into contact with you. Let's see, and we're going to jump to nobody was abducted, so we did not have the fourth kind, although many were experiencing like a disorientation of time, right? So sometimes this happens on the mountain and sometimes this happens with contact. This happened more during the day, so it can also be a part of the contact that already occurred, or you could be undergoing like a telepathic contact at that time that from us making contact the night before. So there were instances of feeling like kind of dreamlike or a disorientation of time. This is also an ascension symptom that many people experience. So you could kind of loop it all together of the disorientation of time means that you are going outside of linear time, right? You are going into the all, and when you go into the all, you feel disoriented because you're so used to being in this linear time scale. So that type of experience did occur, so that will be a close encounter of the fourth kind. And then the close encounter of the fifth kind, so this is a CE5. This is something that Stephen Greer talks about a lot, and he basically came up with the term CE5. And this is when we are doing bilateral contact through consciousness, and it's a proactive or human-initiated communication, which is exactly what we were doing on the mountain. So we had a lot of CE5 contact, where we were asking to come into contact with them and asking for healing from them, or the spirit elemental beings that are inhabitants of the mountain. So we definitely had those contacts. Some of it felt telepathic, or also astrally boarding a ship. So in a previous video I talked about where it's kind of like doing a shamanic journey, where you see yourself going up onto the ship and meeting the beings. In this case, I was introduced to the technology, the light technology that they have, and this is something that, then you can contact them later once you're home via a deep meditation or shamanic journey, or using Akashic Enlightenment, which I plan to do later on. So I just wanted to go over the types of contact that we have. So we had a lot of different forms of close encounters. So it's pretty exciting. So for our first night on the mountain, which was July 31st, it was during the new moon, there was quite a powerful light language transmission that came through, and connection to the Telos beings and Adama, as well as an introduction to many of the interdimensional and galactic beings that were going to come and to contact with us during the time we were there. And so this session was more of seeing things astrally. There were quite a few beings that showed up, and the first one was the praying mantis being, and I've seen the mantis being before. I saw this being last year when I first arrived, and upon deeper inspection or knowledge from Akashic Enlightenment and shamanic journey, the praying mantis being definitely, and it comes across as it's in charge, and you feel that it's kind of like you're shaking hands, you're meeting, and then he never comes back again. He, she, it never comes back again. But then, there's this feeling of all the other beings coming in that are going to be there for this period of contact. It's like they know we're going to be there for 5 days doing this work, and the praying mantis being comes and does a meet and greet. I found out that the praying mantis is part of the Galactic Federation, and they're in charge of basically making sure that all the rules and laws are being followed for contact between humans and interdimensional and intergalactic beings. And so then after that, there were a lot of other beings that came in. There were some little playful beings running around that looked like elementals that I later found out were called, they're part of the Nuwa tribe. They're very playful, very cute. Then there was a very large being. It almost looked similar to the beings from the movie The Fifth Element. And this being was very large, very, very kind. Then there was also some starlight beings of another greater galaxy 1. There was Alpha Centauri quadruplex knowledge beings. That was the very large being that looked like it was from the fifth element. And then the Arcturians showed up, the Pleidians, Sirians. These were for some of the other people in the group. And the Aqualorians came in as well. I met them in 2018 when I was at Mount Shasta. And so basically all the beings that each individual soul there has a soul connection to or contract to do work with. They show up, right? It's a big meet and greet. Like you're showing up to the retreat and you're getting to know each other is what this felt like. So on this second night on the mountain, you can see the difference in the pictures of before there being energetic presences and after, and then some orbs coming in as well as those white streaks. There was a lot of ships that came down, or actually 2 ships that contacted us. One was the Aqualorian ship, and I contacted them last year in 2018. So I boarded their ship astrally and did some personal work with them. They're teaching me some new healing technologies that they work with. Then there was a large ship, very, very large. It was kind of gray, boxy, metal type looking material. And some other members in the group saw this astrally as well. And we got the message that they were the Arcturians coming to do some work with us. So the Arcturians, they're maybe like 4 feet tall, and they have kind of like a blue grayish skin with almond eyes. The feeling of them is very, very friendly. They're very sweet and very conscious, very aware. And so some of us just experienced feeling healing energy, which you can see in the pictures that we got of all the energy that was present in the group. Then on this picture there are orbs, and there is also a being or a spirit, elemental. It looks a little bit like a Gaia spirit that came in on the top right here, and there's a little red UFO just next to it. So this is the color enhanced version of that same image, just to get more contrast. Right, there's the original, and zooming in you can see it almost looks like a face, we thought, bending over. This was just above my head. And then you can see the UFO to the left there in red. The sharp, pointy structures of this image is what we thought makes it look more like a face. Almost like there may be a bone structure there. And here we have a collection of orbs. Here's one hovering above someone's head, probably connecting or doing some healing work. And that looks like a little bug that was caught on camera. And here we have the green light and the white, probably UFOs. Here's another orb moving quickly, and here's a large, it's just like a sea of orbs moving. So many of them, and she's playing with the laser as well. And here's a more dense one moving quickly, so the brighter ones leave that dark trail, and then again those green lights popping up. So here's another one with, you can see me in the blue sleeping bag there, with the orbs flying around. There's one at normal speed, and then this is the slowed down version. So the orbs are an extension of this Gaia energy that was visiting us this night. Kind of like her little elementals working with us. And there's a lot going on in this photo where you can see the green light movement there, which is an orb. You see the orb above my head, the orbs in the background moving around, and then there's actually like a pillar of light orb, or maybe just a pillar of light of a being doing some work on the participant sitting next to me. So orbs are a bit like snowflakes that everyone is different, and sometimes they're different colors, and you can see patterns in them like mandalas. You can also see faces in them when you zoom in closely. So, you know, they're spirits. They have an identity and a frequency, each of their own. And here is an orb either streaking around my third eye or a beam of light coming into my third eye. And here's another video with many of the orbs flying around. Some large ones pass over my sleeping bag. So this was one of our first contacts. A little playful interdimensional UFO came in and was dancing around, interacting. I was told these beings are actually a hybrid of extraterrestrial and the beings in Telos. And as we connect with the Telos beings earlier in the evening, it makes sense that they would come into our three-dimensional contact view as well. So here is a zoomed-in look at the same contact UFO experience. Comes in and out very clearly interdimensionally. It pops in and then pops out, more or less playing with us. Very friendly. You can see as it moves, the light energy is moving through it. And the little green laser that we're circling it and playing with it. And here I broke down some of the frames of the morphing. So it just comes in from nothing and starts to come into a more solid form, into this little solid ball of light, and then just turns into like disintegrated energy and disappears. And then will suddenly just pop right back in as this ball of light and then expands again to disappear. So here is a different UFO, and it is morphing in and out interdimensionally very quickly, and then that one comes in that is bright green that I did a freeze frame on. It is there for a split second and then it's just gone. And now just doing a slow down, slow motion, and then a freeze frame of the green. And that may be the laser because it's the same color, but I'm not totally sure because it's there so quickly and not as a stream, it's as a solid piece. Maybe the UFO was playing with the laser, which they can do that. And then as our grand finale, this little being UFO came in, danced around, and then just morphed away. Almost like a little goodbye. We all were pretty giggly and happy by the end of the evening. So on this night it was a little different, as I had reconnected with some ancient native spirits or shamans, and they were quite serious in their tone. But once we got up to the mountain and I did the light language transmission, they told me that they were initiating us on how they connected with the star people, and they did some sort of healing on us and then connected us with how they connect with the star people. We connected with some beings called the Wisdom Keepers, and during this connection quite a few of us got really hot in our temperature. The beings were really friendly. They were maybe 2 feet tall, black skin, black almond eyes. There were a few taller beings that seemed to be kind of in charge of organizing them. They were very smart, very intelligent, almost kind of nerdy, and they were downloading us with massive amounts of information. Nothing that you can really process in the moment. It's just something that unpacks over time. And so that was a very powerful contact experience, in that we experienced a body temperature shift. Also, that the rest of the videos, there's a lot of beings that come in, and so it's pretty exciting, the activity that we recorded that night as well. We start off with a lot of orbs, and then there's also a UFO that shows up, and then again just a sea of orbs greeting us to begin with. This is also probably from the light language. The beings, the spirits coming to work with us and connect. Then here you can see our first UFO showing up and then morphing out at the same time that this green spirit, or ET, it's an interdimensional being, pops up. I was later told the green being is the Gaia or Eden light. Here's a close-up of the UFO morphing, and then a slow motion of the morphing. And here's the green interdimensional being. There are 2 orbs that show up before it shows up as well, which you can see in the slow motion version of it. You'll see the UFO pop up in the same corner for a second. There's once, and then a second time, and then the green being will come in. You can see here she looks like a butterfly. So our second video of UFO and interdimensional being contact for the evening. There's a little UFO that pops in on the bottom of the screen, and then you can see the green being, interdimensional being, fly across the screen at the same time. I am moving the camera around because I didn't really see this with my naked eye. I was just filming, and then I found this afterwards. So here's a zoom in so you can see it closer, and then here's a picture of the green spirit or interdimensional being and the UFO. This may be the Gaia Eden light again, or an Essene. Now here's a slow motion version. So this is me filming what's directly in front of me as I'm laying on the ground in my sleeping bag. And there are some orbs that pass by, and then you can see in the top left there's this green interdimensional being or Gaia spirit. I'm not sure if it's an ET or a UFO. I did an Akashic reading on this one, and I was told that it was the Essene that were doing the work on us. And I'm pretty sure that I've heard of these beings before from other channelers. So, and this being shows up the next day as well. When played in slow motion, you can see that an orb passes on the left, and then this green little interdimensional being flies through the main screen and then dashes back in up at the top left, much more fully morphed into our dimensional space, because it's very visible. That's how I got the green, the picture of the green being. And here is some pictures of another UFO, and then a zoom in on a few orbs. So by the end of the night, we started receiving a lot more contact. It got really, really busy, and there were contact tones and UFOs flying in. Things move pretty fast in this video, so you want to watch the top right. A ship that looks like an orb morphs in and out interdimensionally. Then watch the far left. A ship comes down and is bouncing around. And then the majority of the action is on the right. There's a bunch of little ships that come down, and then the big bright one right above there comes in and then morphs out at the end. The sounds that you hear in the video are contact sounds. So there's the clicking sound, and then also the beeping, which are often referred to as contact tones. Dr. Stephen Greer has some recordings of these on his ET Contact app as other examples. There's also been some recordings of contact sounds at crop circles, as well as Shasta and at other sightings. And this is just the energy of the contact that is going on, sending out signals. It's interesting, in the slowed down time-lapse version, the clicking actually sounds almost like a shamanic drum, which I find very fascinating, as the shamanic drum puts you into a theta brainwave state. So I feel like the contact sounds are connecting to you telepathically and opening up the contact even more, as many of us were experiencing a lot during this contact. We were seeing beings. If you have clairvoyant vision and you can see into astral dimensions, you can see those beings present there, which some were experiencing, and others we just felt it, or we just heard the tones and were very mesmerized by these tones. Okay, here is zooming in on the top right area. There is a ship. It looks like an orb at first, but it is shifting its size and its transparency, and so it's morphing in and out of interdimensional space. So it goes into a dimensional space that we can no longer see it, and then becomes visible on the screen. And then after that, you're going to watch the far left. You can see a ship coming in, coming down, bouncing around. And then on the far right is where the majority of the action is taking place. There's a lot of little ships come in, and then a big bright one that comes in. And when it exits, it morphs out as well, interdimensionally. So it goes into another dimensional space. And in the first video, you can hear the sound change with that as well. So that morphing is taking place right here. You see it enlarges and kind of dissolves right out. And here's the morphing or dissolving into another dimension, slowed down. And the morphing exit at normal speed, so you can hear the sound of it zipping out. And one last time, the entire video. So this was our 5th night, our last night, and you can see the orbs, the photos that we got for that night. A lot of them hovering over a lot of the participants. Some of them being quite bright, and just large seas, the seas full of orbs. This last night we were aware that we were there for our grand finale, and after doing a thanking for everything that was brought to us, we were told and invited to interact with all of the beings that we had come into contact with. They all basically started showing up. There were just too many to see astrally. It just felt like a scene from Star Wars with all the different creatures showing up, and almost very playful, like when they're with the Ewoks, playing with them, having a party with them in Star Wars. It felt like that. It was very, very playful the whole night, and they invited us to interact with them how each of us felt called to, that they enjoy the interaction as much as we do. So they really just wanted us to more or less engage with them and play with them, all of the spirits and beings that we had come into contact with already. And so it was pretty much a party, a contact party. And it was just a lot of fun. You can see all the orbs come in. And the orbs are spirit energies. They're a little different than the orb ships, UFOs that come in. So these are more of like the spirits of the mountains. They definitely can make you very giggly and high and happy. So they're very fun to play with and just experience overall. So these came in, they're there, but they also come in more when you start interacting with them. So after I would do the light language transmission, they would definitely amp up. So this is the same video, just slowed down so you can hopefully see them a little more closely as they speed by. So here's one of the first UFOs. Pretty cute how it comes in morphs in and also speeds in and then just halts and hovers, almost like it's looking at you. So first there is a little UFO that pops in the top left there, and maybe what is morphing into this being that pops in later. The little green being that kind of looks like the caterpillar from the other night. The light flashes are just the flash hitting certain things, maybe my finger that's shining on my boot. You can see the being starting to come in bottom left, and then it pops up right there, and then it exits the top of the screen. Then there is a little bug, and then bright red in that top right corner, maybe it morphing back into another form, and then it pops in again. And there are some little orbs flying by. Then we started to hear some beeping sounds.
You hear the beeping? You hear the beeping?
So here you can hear one of the group participants talking about the beings that she's seeing, making a connection, and then shortly afterwards, her phone rings. But after we left, she couldn't see any missed phone calls. So that's an example of the ET contact definitely interfering or interacting with your technology.
Wow.
Right here?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Sorry if I'm blinding you.
Are they calling you? Keep going around, keep going. Right there, there's a giant beam.
So one of the participants brought a laser, which is a fun way to interact with the UFOs. So that's the green light that you see dancing around.
Oh my God.
Sorry if I'm blinding you. Are they calling you?
So here we have a little UFO bob in and then pause to say hello and then jump right out. Little ship comes in, very, very playful, and it has a little friend that blinks in a red color just below it.
Somebody's playing with us up there.
And here's a zoomed in version so you can see it a little more clearly.
Somebody's playing with us up there.
And this was the grand finale. Come on, little guy. We
There it
love
is.
you.
There it is.
Whoa.
We love you.
Whoa. Holy goodness.
Power up. Come on. Say hello. You can't tell because it's dark out, but all of those lights are actually just at the tree line, close to the ground. And here it is again in slow motion. You can see them all popping up like popcorn or like fireworks. It's pretty amazing. Well, that concludes our presentation. I hope you enjoyed it and that it brought a new awareness for you to the other beings that are in this world with us when we take the time to dial deeper within ourselves or take the time to communicate with them. They are there. And if this is something you feel like you're being called to experience, you can join us again at this retreat on another year. Every year is different, and whatever is in the highest and best will come through. So this was a really beautiful example of the time that we are in when this was occurring, as well as the souls that were present and the work that we were all doing together. So again, I hope you enjoyed it and received any healing. Remember to share this with those that you feel could benefit from seeing this, and to like it as well. And I hope you enjoyed this presentation and enjoy your journey in connecting with the beings that are meant to align with you. Much love, many blessings, and we'll see you at the next retreat. Bye for now.